Ooh, Bad Larry.
Welcome back, Bad Larry Kingdom. I'm your host, Bad Larry, and today we're checking out X Factor number 8. X Factor versus Freedom Force. We have a new writer and a new artist in this issue. Written by Luis Simonson and drawn by Mark Silvestri. In the sewers directly underneath X Factor Complex, Cyclops and Marvel Girl are cleaning up the residual radiation left behind by Glowworm in the bulk. Scott is trying to make small talk, but Jean Grey's like, cut the crap. You have a picture of this Maddie? She says, first of all, this chick looks so much like me she could be a clone. Wink, wink. And then she says, oh, you have a son? I thought we'd always have a daughter together. Which is great foreshadowing because, you know, Rachel Summers, Phoenix, their daughter. And Scott's like, baby, it should have been you. And Jean Grey's like, one, you abandoned your wife and kid. Rude. And two, the only reason you didn't tell me is because you knew I didn't have telepathy anymore. So piss off. And Scott's like, you might need that helmet. You can't leave it down here. It's real expensive. Meanwhile, in the X Factor complex above, Bubblegum Head, Arthur, Beast, Angel, Iceman, and Vera are all huddled around the TV. They're all hoping to catch a glimpse of Vera's interview with the local TV reporter. Vera's on TV talking about how some mutants are sexy, but Beast is laughing at how stupid her haircut looks on TV. And Angel is shirtless, obviously. And they make a note that due to Bulk and Glowworm's radiation, the TV reception is quite fuzzy, making sure that the X Factor identities are secure. And it looks like Rusty's training is paying off. He's been able to fine-tune his heating power just enough to heat up some popcorn for Arthur. Is this real control? But what about in a battle situation? They're laughing at how easily their fake X Factor stunt was able to trick the humans and the media using these prop guns and costumes. And Bubblegum Head Arthur makes a projection of when Beast was talking to the reporters. And Beast makes a point that all the news is fake news. Then Beast tells Rusty that breakfast time is over and get his rusty dusty butt into the gym to practice his powers. As Arthur and Rusty are walking to the gym in the hallway, Rusty tells Arthur to watch out for the glass. Iceman was overzealous in his fake attack upon X Factor headquarters in the last episode. Rusty and Arthur see Cameron Hodge and the mayor debating on who's going to pay for the damages of X Factor headquarters in the surrounding area. Before Rusty leaves Arthur to go train, he tells Arthur he doesn't feel right about the way that Cameron Hodge is promoting X Factor and how all the mutants are menaces. He says it just doesn't feel right. And we know in real life, Cameron Hodge is a son of a bitch. Angel is flying around Iceman's little ice obstacle course. Angel is in focus because he's got his head too much on Jean Grey's sweet derriere. Jean Grey walks by. Angel's like, so hot, want to touch the hiney? Oh. Iceman's like, you know that's right. Come on, son. Rusty is wishing he himself had a girlfriend, but then he remembers that prostitute that he burned up. And then he's like, oh my gosh, I can't go out and show my face. I'm probably wanted by the feds. And Iceman says, Rusty, you know that's right. Come on, son. And Angel says, just give it up trying to get a girl. You're ugly, you're redheaded, you got no wings, you super suck at your powers, and you got ginger balls. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., the Pentagon headquarters of the organization known as Freedom Force, led by the shape-shifting mutant Mystique and Pyro, Destiny, Pyro, Blob, Avalanche, as well as the non-mutant Spider-Woman, Freedom Force, Destiny, who is technically blind but has the mutant ability of foresight, has determined that Rusty Collins is important and Freedom Force is going to go try to grab him. The Blob, Avalanche, and Pyro are a couple of idiots doing some sophomoric hijinks. Mystique says if you idiots are all done, we need to go get Rusty and get some of that government cash. Spider-Man has matched Rusty's wanted poster to the grainy image on the TV screen. Now they know that Rusty is working with X Factor in New York. And Mystique is wondering why a mutant would work with mutant hunters, but says, never mind, when we get him, we'll unwash his brain, get him on the right track. Meanwhile, in X Factor Complex, Cameron Hodge gets X Factor together and says that there's a mutant battle going on in Central Park involving some sort of robot and they need to get over there. And Angel's like, aww, Beast and I were going to oil up our bodies and wrestle. And Cyclops says, it's no time for homoerotic Greco-Roman wrestling. We need to get on our X-Factor gear, get to Central Park now. Jean Grey's been giving everyone the silent treatment. Angel's like, what up, girl? Hold on. Jean Grey's pissed off that no one told her about Scott's secret marriage. And Angel's like, but Jean, bros before hoes. bros before hoes. Angel is actually sticking up for Cyclops, saying, Jean, you are dead. You are dead and gone. You think Scott's gonna wait forever? Even though Angel is helping, Scott is too proud. He didn't like anyone in his business. So when Rusty walks up with Arthur in an X-Factor garb, saying, hey, I'm gonna help out, Scott snaps at Rusty. He says, first, we only allow super hot redheads on this team, and you're an ugly gingerballs. And secondly, if the feds recognize you, they're gonna scoop you up, put you in jail, and then we're gonna have to go and break you out again. So go sit your dusty ass down, watch Arthur, and let the grown-ups go do grown-up stuff. And Rusty storms off with Arthur, saying, oh, this place is a prison, tell Scott, you're not my dad. Inside their room, Bubblegum Head Arthur uses his mutant projection powers to display an evil intention helicopter on the way to battle with X-Factor. Rusty says they need to go warn Cameron Hodge. Inside the Freedom Force helicopter, Destiny tells Mystique that she's having a hard time reading X-Factor but knows that Rusty isn't with them. Mystique turns around and tells the Blob to stop farting or she'll toss his fat ass out the helicopter. Meanwhile, at X-Factor headquarters, Rusty and Arthur bust in on Cameron Hodge on the phone. Cameron Hodge snaps at them, calls them some dirty, ugly freaks, and don't interrupt his phone call. And Rusty's like, first, that hurts. I'm going to cry about that later in my bed. But for now, I need to go warn X-Factor. Secondly, I need to put on this coat and hat so the feds don't recognize me. Oh, and a disguise for Arthur? Nah, he won't stand out with his big-ass bubblegum head. He'll blend right in. Rusty and Arthur make it to Central Park where they see X-Factor is investigating the area. An explosion attracts our heroes, and then the ground moves like waves of the ocean, upending our heroes. Mystique says, we're Freedom Force. Knock if you buck, boy. We're here to take Rusty. Try and stop us. She tells the six-armed blonde beauty Spiral to go get Rusty. Spiral must have realized she left the oven on at her apartment. She moves her arms around wildly and just disappears. Scott, who's battled Mystique many times before, calls her team trash. Mystique asks Destiny, who the F is this guy talking trash? Because of Jean Grey's presence, Destiny's mind is going out of control. She says there's too many possibilities surrounding her and her mind is being overloaded. So Mystique and the Freedom Force still don't know that X-Factor are really mutants. But Cyclops and the X-Factor team know exactly who Mystique and her lackeys are. They're not the Freedom Force. They're the former Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and they launch a quick attack. The human public get behind X-Factor battling the mutants, but they're too chicken to do anything because Freedom Force look real scary. Jean Grey tells Rusty to run, but the fat-ass Blob gets in his way. He says, hey, Gingerballs, I got a warrant for your arrest. And Rusty Collins says, F your warrant, and burns it up in his hand. And Pyro says, g'day, mate. I'ma burn your ass up with this open flame. You better jump like the kangaroo. You know, because Pyro's Australian. And Jean Grey blocks his weak-ass fire attack with her telekinesis. And Jean tells Rusty to run while the fire is obstructing their vision. The mutant beauty Morlock Skids has decided to leave her tunnels and is watching the battle within the crowd. Julia Carpenter, aka Spider-Woman, makes a web and catches Rusty. She's like, I got you, bitch. And we see Skids skating along her protective force field, grabs Rusty from the clutches of Spider-Woman. Spider-Woman thinks that she can grab a hold of Skids. Skids says, not today, bitch. Can't nobody hold me down. The humans think that if they can get Rusty, they can get some kind of reward by turning him in. Mystique tells Avalanche to give X-Factor a little rumble, and then they decide to go after Rusty themselves. And Rusty's thinking, Angel is wrong. I do have gingerballs, but maybe I can get me a little mutant girlfriend. Skid seems always happy, maybe because she knows that no one can even ever touch her. And she knows that her protection powers extend to people she's holding. So Rusty's safe as well. Skids and Rusty skate through the crowd untouched. The crowd has no couth. They knock over the reporters. They're after Skids and Rusty. Skids tells Rusty, I'll distract the crowd. You make a break for it. The crowd attacks Skids, but her force field is too strong. Things are just bouncing off of her. But Rusty doesn't know the extent of Skid's powers. He doesn't know how long she can keep the crowd at bay. So he turns around. He's Captain Save-A-Ho. He wants to make this chick his girlfriend. So he grabs a hold of her. He makes a huge fireball, keeping the crowd at bay. So Rusty's training at X-Factor Complex is paying off. Someone from the crowd throws a rock. But because of his training with Jean Grey and Iceman, he turns that rock into dust. And Skids tells Rusty, That's hot. Rusty can't believe that she's not burned up. She's like, don't worry about it. I'm impervious. And Rusty's like, oh yeah? Well, let's go back to my X Factor complex and see how impervious you are in my bed. But Freedom Force cock blocks Rusty. Mystique turns into Uncle Sam and says, you're coming with us, ginger balls. In the bottom panel, we see Scott is a little pissed because Rusty disobeyed his orders to stay at home with Arthur, but knows he's still gonna have to go save his gingerball ass. And tune in tomorrow for issue number 9, where we're gonna see our heroes have an all-out battle with Freedom Force. Please like this video, hit the subscribe button, and let me know in the comments if you like this series and which series that you would like to see next.